Here with Russell Malterud to preview the shooting sports season coming up. As we record this, just a few days away from the first big competition of the season. First off, wanted to talk a little bit about you personally, how you found out about Concordia. You're from Minnesota, right? How did you find out about Concordia, and what kind of convinced you that this was the place for you to be?
Well, I knew about the university because my varsity basketball coach actually graduated from here, and so somehow he managed to find his way up there, and so from him I knew of the place, I guess. And then I got information on sort of like a magazine in the mail with different schools, and I recognized Concordia, and I just kind of sent in my application and kind of tested the waters. And then when I visited, it was kind of everything I was looking for, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. You think of people growing up playing football and basketball, baseball, soccer. How did shooting enter the picture for you, and why was it something you wanted to do collegiately?
Well, I was like most kids. I lived sports. I mean, doing something, typically between basketball and baseball, 365. Doesn't matter if it was in season or not, you know how it is. There's always something going on. And the first week of my freshman year of high school, I completely blew out my knee, and that knocked me out of athletics for the entire year and kind of left me in a unique position. I mean, I've got a strong background in hunting, but I'd never even shot trap or any, kind of target before. And then that was also the same year our high school implemented a trap team in the spring, and so I decided I needed something to do with my life. I mean, to fill that void, and I did it, and I guess I kind of had some natural ability or whatever, and I enjoyed it, and one thing led to another, and I just kind of kept going with it.
And now you're here, and you've competed, and you're transitioning a little bit to coaching alongside that. How has that role been going for you?
So far, so good. I mean, I've got a little bit of experience over the past few years. I mean, there's one coach to go around with all of us kids, and so I've took it upon myself as well as a lot of us upperclassmen to help out the younger kids, or even help each other out where we might be struggling, pointers here and there. And so now it's just basically more of a formal thing.
Now this fall you'll be spending a lot of Saturdays and Sundays at competitions. What do you enjoy the most about those weekends?
The nice weather, when there is nice weather, that makes the events so much more enjoyable. But I mean, we're only shooting, depending on the day, for a couple hours, and sometimes our days are long. I mean, especially like these Grand Islands or Lincoln, it's where you commute there and then commute back every day, both days in the week of the weekend. There's a lot of downtime that you spend with teammates, and that's kind of how the team bonding begins, and the camaraderie.
How about for you personally, when things are going well on the range, what's kind of the key to that success?
There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, proper sleep, hydration is a big thing, especially like this weekend when it's going to be 100 degrees. I mean, it's just going to take the life right out of you if you're not hydrated. I've even started looking into nutrition as well in the past few years, and just making sure that I'm eating right going into it so I can withstand these long weekends.
You've been around this program now for a while. How do you compare where it is now as opposed to when you first got here, and kind of the changes that have happened?
It's completely different. I mean, it really is. That my first year here, when everything changed, there's a lot of growing pains. I mean, like anything with that kind of transition, there's your ups and your downs, and trying to figure out how things are going to work. And we ended up, finding our way, obviously. But now, I mean, this year everything just kind of hit the ground running, and everyone has been working together, and we're all hungry. We all know what it takes now. A lot at the beginning was everyone trying to figure out, okay, how does this even work? Now it's like us upperclassmen know what needs to be done, and now it's just getting the freshmen in and getting them right up to speed with us and going.
Looking at last season, the team won a conference title, had some other high finishes at different events. What kind of stood out to you about what was accomplished last year?
I mean, we know when we shoot our game where we're going to end up, and we know what we're capable of. But I think last year a lot of it was just all the first for everything that, kind of like you spoke of before with all that transition. I mean, it's some real groundbreaking stuff, and that for us was kind of like our first taste of actually getting there, which to especially us that have lived through everything that happened that first year, I mean, it meant a lot to us. And okay, now we know what this feels like, and now it's okay, how do we keep this going? How do we, not let it get to our heads and make sure that this is repeatable? I mean, yeah, it's great to win the conference once, but obviously that's not the goal, to win the conference one year and then be done with it. I mean, we want to keep this traveling trophy here at Concordia for years to come.
Mm-hmm. What have you noticed maybe about how the competitive level of college shooting is increasing? Because it seems like there are more schools like Concordia putting resources into it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise to me. I mean, coming from where I come from, a little bit of background, my senior year, there's 11,000 kids in my state that shot high school trap alone. So there's definitely the demand for it. I mean, if schools are willing to put the resources forth to a program, they will have no problem getting in quality athletes. A lot of it is, I mean, I found out about this through a promotional magazine, but like the recruiting is difficult for these coaches because, I mean, there's a lot that goes on. Our seasons for most of the schools that we shoot against is very, very busy throughout the fall. And then the winter time is kind of when you get all your recruiting done. But at the same time, you're not shooting as much in the winter here because we all know how Midwestern winter is. And so I think as schools are starting to figure out, okay, when to recruit, how to recruit, and what needs to be done, kind of modeling other schools, seeing how they're doing it, I expect that, I mean, this trajectory is just going to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Shooting sports is kind of an individual sport when you're up there competing, but how do you guys try to work to compete, to kind of foster that team environment where you have that togetherness?
Like I said, a lot of it comes from the downtime when we're actually not shooting. I mean, to put a number to it, I'd say 90% of our team bonding comes from that. But also a lot of it is some events, you just kind of got to do your own thing. Like in trap, there is no talking, amongst people, but in ski, certain people have their own ways, and we just kind of bond based on that sometimes. I mean, when you're having a rough day, it's always nice to have somebody else out there with you to keep things going, to keep things talking. Or in sporting clays, it's just kind of like shooting golf. You go from station to station, hole to hole, metaphorically speaking, and you get that same kind of camaraderie that you would going and playing 18 holes or something.
How about what's your favorite event to shoot personally, and what area are you maybe working on to hopefully get better at?
Right now, I think both my favorite and the one I'm working to improve on is sporting clays, just because now that a lot coming into this, just this whole career I've had, I had very little experience, and so this all has been a learning experience. But now that I've had 3 years under my belt, a lot of the games are more of just a mental game of repetition. But sporting clays is a game where it's not only that, but it's something different every time. It's like golf. You're never going to see the same course twice when you're shooting these major events anyways. And so just all the nuances to the game and all the little details and the techniques and all that is something that it makes or breaks not only championships, but it's also the most interesting and the most hardest to completely master.
The national championships take place in San Antonio in the spring. Explain what that event is like and what kind of thrill you get out of being at that competition.
I mean, it's something when you get down there and you see, hopefully we go back to normal with the COVID year. It was a lot different last year, but going back to my freshman year when we were there, the place is quite the facility they got going there. And it's busy. I mean, there's kids from all across the country. Some kids, it's a fairly tight community, so some kids, and other kids know other kids, and so there's that inter-team bonding that takes place, and catching up with old friends that you might have shot with in high school or over the summer and this and that. And then there's also, everyone knows what's at stake here. I mean, it's what we all compete for, and although it's different from, say, like a sporting event like a basketball national championship or a basketball tournament or a football Super Bowl, something like that, to where it all comes down to one game. It's kind of spread out throughout the week or however long you're there for, and just the intensity between everyone there, especially when people are getting ready to actually shoot their event. The intensity is something you really have to be there to experience, to understand.
Last thing, we know, as we've talked about, the program's kind of improving year after year, and a lot of records were broken last year. What do you see coming up this fall for this team, and what expectations do you have?
I'm not going to put any numbers, or I don't like doing that. I don't do that for myself. I don't do that for everyone. I'm not going to do that for everyone on the team. There's so much that can take place throughout the year that, from where I stand at least, I don't think it's fair to put your expectations here, and if X or Y unexpectedly happens, then okay, maybe that goal's not obtainable. But I mean, there's no reason we can't duplicate our success from last year and have an even more successful year this year. Our freshmen that we got in this year, from what I've seen, have been phenomenal. And yeah, we lost some major pieces last year, but we still have a great core group of kids coming back along with these freshmen, and I think it's going to be a really fun year. I'll just put it that way.